It had just been Diane Keaton's funeral, and as soon as Woody Allen walked up to the casket, he broke the solemn mood with a strong emotional rush. He spoke in a choked voice. Diane was not only the woman I loved the most, but also my soulmate and my endless source of inspiration. This moving tribute made everyone hold their breath. No one thought Allen would be so honest about how loyal and deep his feelings were. Diane's bright smile on movie sets and the memories of long nights spent working on projects together rushed through her mind. Back, which made the ceremony painful and full of deep feeling. It didn't end there, though. Allen said something shocking at the funeral. It was once thought that Al Pacino was Diane's love, but he was actually lying to her. Never really loved her. He only used Diane's heart for himself, Allen said straight out. I was the one who loved her deeply. Heart. This story also brings up a lot of questions. How much did they love each other, Dave and Woody Allen? What dark lies are hidden behind Diane's smile? Hide? Let's watch the movie and talk about it all. In the afternoon of October 14th went by in a quiet, a little chilly mood. Diane Keaton had already left. She died too soon, leaving a hole in the hearts of those she loved. After a time of unspecified grief, her family chose the service should be held at a small church on a cliff with a view of the water. Where Diane seemed to love the sunset the most. She had asked for this her whole life, a small, private wedding in the woods, away from people and noise. Beginning early in the morning, Diane's two adopted children, Dexter and Duke, began calling close friends and co-workers to tell them she had died. They were feeling a lot in their words. Mom always lived her life to the fullest, and today we do too. I want each person to remember her own way. With each call, a stream of thoughts on Diane. Her happy laugh, her smile, and feel of them had learned about love from her. As people started to show up, they were led down a short hallway lined with pictures of Diane from her childhood years to her famous parts in Annie Hall, the Sunlit Parachutes and the First Wives Club. Each picture was put on a small stand with notes made by Dexter and Duke by hand. Our mother, our light. Guests stopped and watched in silence, sighing softly as the sound of the sea echoed off windows in the church. Denise was the first person to walk into the church with Woody Allen. The funeral for Keaton was going on. The windows were lit up by the light of the setting sun. Sparkling on the pictures of Diane that are arranged around the coffin. He laughed and stopped in front of a picture of Diane. Bright on the movie set in Manhattan. Woody choked up and his voice shook as he looked into her beautiful eyes in the picture. She is unique and different from everyone else. Jane, I'll never forget how you smiled. He walked slowly as he thought about the first time he met her. His eyes were filled with tears. Diane on the stage of Broadway. She was young and full of life, and her eyes were so beautiful that he once had doubts about his cool around her. Those times rushed back. The tryouts, the first scenes, and the late nights spent on set where they made timeless film frames together. As he sighed and sat down quietly in with their hands squeezed, as if they were trying to hold on to a piece of Diane is still alive. Nicole, you were more than just the woman I love the most, but also my friend and the person who always inspires me, Woody whispered, but his voice was broken, and he listened to the sea echo through the window. It looked like Diane was there at that time. She smiled at him like she did on set when they were laughing together until I lost track of time as film memories rushed back to me. He thought of Annie Hall, Diane with the golden hair and playful eyes, and then he closed his eyes and thought about how she made everyone else shine. Laughter in his mind, laughter that he knew would never happen again. He told Diane, you made my life brighter, and I will take that light with me for the rest of my life, Woody said. He stood up and walked around the coffin, looking at each picture of Diane. One picture of her was on a street in New York, wearing a blue dress. Another is on a beach in Paris, blowing her hair out in the wind. His eyes sparkled as he walked up to each picture and bowed. Words of praise, and even tears. Diane is one of a kind. Keaton will always be in my heart. A little while later, Woody sat down next to putting his hand on the coffin. Tears fell along with his sighs. He stood up and turned to Dexter. He felt like the air around him was full of the love and memories they used to share, and Duke, Diane's kids, were nodding a little to comfort them. I know Di lived a full life, and I will remember how much happiness Diane brought into my life. To all of us. Hold on to these memories of your mother. Woody then leaned over and turned the pages. Old book that he had kept for many years. It had pictures of Diane on Manhattan sets. He remembered clearly the playful smile and bright eyes. He looked at each one carefully, remembering every moment, line, and smile. The two of them looked at each other and then he pulled out a few more pictures from Annie Hall. In them, Diane was wearing a blue dress, and she was standing next to him on a New York street with her hair slightly curled in the wind. Woody gave her these pictures, Dexter and Duke, softly nodding but not saying anything. But his eyes showed that thought that these pictures would become priceless relics that would keep Diane's memory alive forever. Dexter and Duke carefully took the pictures and moved them around quietly. Woody looked at them with a smile that was both sad and comforting. He felt a little better when the next generation would remember Diane. Her memory is still bright and living through each picture. Woody felt the emptiness when it was quiet, but he knew that Diane's memory would live on in him and her family. Woody finally stood up and took his hand off the album. The pictures were left next to the coffin, but no words were said. His heart was filled with deep sadness and a mix of comfort and mourning. Dexter and Duke were going to bury these artifacts with Diane, so they knew off her soul for themselves while he kept going through the empty space full of memories. Right after Woody, Goldie Hawn walked in with red eyes but a soft voice. "Look at me. We once promised to grow old together, Diane," she said with a shaking voice, "but today I will still keep that. I will keep her company and laughter in my heart as a promise. B." Midler stood close quietly with a picture of Diane from the First Wives Club in her hand and said, "She was always at that light of inspiration still burns in us." Diane had sent Lauren Graham some letters and pictures, which she carried in a small box. I remembered Diane in her living room with a pen and paper in her hand as soon as I opened it. Hand, making sweet notes. Lauren read out loud one of the letters. "Lauren, have fun and don't be afraid to dream. Each moment is valuable." Her voice echoed through the church, making it sound like Diane was there with everyone. Dexter and Diane were sitting on the table next to the casket. Duke put a big book down where pictures of Diane from her life had been stuck, from family portraits to magazine shoots in Paris. Each picture told a story. Walks on the beach. Dexter said in a low voice, "Mom always wanted us to treasure memories, and today we do it together." Duke said with a smile, "She will always be with us." Steve Martin, who had worked with Diane and was the groom's father, showed up later. He stood in front of the coffin with a small champagne glass in his hand and slowly raised it. The glass as if to toast Diane in heaven. Every day, she knew how to turn it. Turned into a party. Today will also be a party, Diane. People softly smiled as tears fell from their eyes, but there was relief in their smiles. Love. Robert De Niro and Keanu Reeves quietly walked up to the coffin and bowed. Each person brought a small memento, like an old script or photos from behind the scenes. Memories were filled with laughter, reminders, and funny scenes from shooting. Even though no one said much, just being there was the greatest honor of all. As the sun went down, bright lights from the setting sun shone through the church windows, lighting up the pictures. Diane's face in everyone's mind. Dexter and Duke stood by the coffin and felt the last love and warmth from. Dexter said in a whisper, "Mom lived fully," and Duke answered, "Now we will continue to carry that light. Her laugh, her lessons, everything about her love will live on." The service ended in deep sadness. There was quiet, but it was full of love. Guests left, and many stopped to look at sea, taking deep breaths of the salty air that Diane had always loved. It was like Diane was still there in her smile. Time seemed to slow down. In their hearts, in their memories, and in the light of the setting sun. Even though Keaton was no longer with us, her love, happiness, and moments will live on. Of fully living would last forever. At Diane's funeral, it was Woody Allen who seemed the most moved and sad. What kind of deep connection did they have? In 1969, Woody Allen met Diane Keaton for the first time at an acting tryout for the Play It Again, Sam. As soon as Diane walked into the room, her sly eyes lit up. Allen was totally captivated by her smile and natural presence. He thought the whole world slowed down at that moment. Diane also noticed this. Allen was different in a way that made her want to know more. He seemed honest and strange at the same time. After the audition, they went to dinner together and laughed while talking about art, music, and goals that were far away. Never told anyone else. Over the next few months, they met up a lot in small bars on the streets of New York while jazz played in the background. Their feelings grew on their own, without any hurry or pressure. Diane found a spiritual friend in Allen, someone who got her weird ideas. Allen thought Diane was a fun and creative way to look at things. Diane was an inspiration to him, and all of his artistic ideas blew up like Athet started his whole professional life. They chose to live together in Allen's small room where mornings are quiet, coffee smells good, and nights are long. The two of them talked a lot. Diane told tales from her youth and her Allen just listened as she talked about her fears and goals that she had never told anyone else. Sometimes they smile, and other times they remember things that they will later use in movies. They laughed, sometimes fought, but then made up with hugs and smiles, as if nothing had happened. Before they started working together on movies, nothing had ever happened. Their friendship grew stronger, and Diane became Allen's inspiration for the people he made up. On the set of Annie Hall, her sly eyes, Allen had to rewrite lines over and over because of his smirk and briefly sad smile. Looking for ways to make Diane look perfect. Every shot, every detail, this look on Diane's face became a highlight of the movie, and in Alan's heart, even though they were only together for a few years, they were spiritually connected, they never went away. When Diane chose to go back to California to advance her job, they went with her. Quietly broke up without a fight, but with deep, soft sadness. Alan once said that God and Freud were the only ones who could understand why they broke up. In his heart, Diane was still his partner and best friend. Every project they worked on together after they broke up showed an amazing level of compatibility. Diane always seemed sweet on Manhattan, Interiors, and the radio show. Alan wrote and directed movies, but his eyes were what really caught my attention. Diane was always shown next to him on TV, as if she were still there. They worked together as artists, but they also worked together as two like-minded people working together. Everyday memories also lived in Alan as his mind went back to evening walks along the East River, where Diane lived. As they talked, Alan listened in silence and sometimes made fun of them. Ease the stress. They laughed, cried, and talked about everyday things. Still important times that made their love not only romantic but also. Diane has always been Alan's muse and only spiritual friend, inspiration that never runs out. In return, Alan understood and had a deep psychic connection with Diane, and he loved her very much. They were no longer lovers, but soulmates, sharing life, fun, art, and leaving a lasting mark after they broke up. In many ways, Woody Allen and Diane Keaton were no longer in love in the early 1970s. Couple, but their friendship and spiritual link stayed strong. Diane kept living her life in New York and Hollywood, where she made a great movie. She had a job and raised her 2 kids, Dexter and Duke, in a loving home. She was in close relationships with stars like Al Pacino and Warren Beatty, but she never got married. Giving her a wide range of emotional situations. Diane's personal life included both acting, and she was a renowned artist and a loving mother while she was a mother. Woody Allen kept making art. Worked at his own pace and had time for personal projects like writing scripts, directing, and playing out. He married Sunanip Ven, Mia Farrow's adopted daughter, in 1997 and had 2 children with her. This connection caused a lot of trouble in the public eye, but Allen stuck to his beliefs. Choice, continuing his work in movies and in his own art projects. Fans were probably most shocked when Woody Allen made a speech right after Diane Keaton's funeral. An unplanned move. He was sitting alone in his familiar Manhattan apartment, talking on the phone, and as he looked through social media, he had a strong need to tell the truth. Not just for himself but also for Diane's fans. He had loved and cared for Diane all his life. He couldn't keep quiet about what he felt about her life after she died. Thought were lies. In a long post on his social media, he wrote about the years he spent with Diane, her eyes, smile, and long they talked for hours at night, but his tone quickly changed to revealing things he thought Diane had been through. Among other people, he talked about Al Pacino, who was seeing Diane, writing that he didn't love Diane, he just used her heart for his own gain. I was the one who really cared about her. From the first day to the last. The post shocked people online right away, and many were shocked by Alan's honest words. Many people could also feel his deep pain and love for Diane through his words. Some friends said it was the first time they had ever seen Alan show such genuine and strong love in public. Soon after, Alan kept responding to comments with strong statements that he didn't want to hurt anyone's reputation, he just wanted to show Diane how he really felt. He wrote, "I don't want lies to hurt her reputation. Diane should be honored." Finally, Woody said, "For who she was, for her heart, not for fake love games." Alan pledged to honor Diane's memory with a short but powerful line at the end of the post. "Diane, I will always love you and keep our promise, no matter what the world says. I still remember things," and these words struck a chord as a statement of anyone who reads it can find company, love that lasts, and soulmates. Still, Alan and Keaton wanted them to feel both his sadness and his truthfulness. They kept a special bond, not romantically, but emotionally deeply linked. This is most clear in Now. Let's talk about Diane's defense of Alan during his biggest public scandal, explore Alan's darker side to learn more about him and his partner. Friendship with Diane. In 1992, Hollywood was rocked by a sad story. Dylan Farrow, a blonde-haired girl of 7 years old with clear eyes, said that her foster father, Woody Allen, had done to her mother, Mia Farrow. Dylan says she did something terrible to him in a short moment, and Allen led her into the attic when dim light came in through a cracked dark area, told her to play with a toy train while lying on her stomach, and then touched her private parts. She told him, shaking, that he kissed her. She told her in a whisper, "Don't tell Mom." A video of Dylan's statement that Mia took soon after was very shocking. Years later in the documentary Allen vs. Farrow, the claim did not come up in silence. Before this, Mia and Alan were no longer together after Mia saw that Alan, her longtime boyfriend, had started seeing someone else. Mia's adopted 21-year-old daughter from a former marriage, Suni caused problems in the family, and when Dylan spoke out, it made things worse. Mia, a loving mother of 14 kids, added fuel to the fire. Dylan was quickly taken to the police by both biological and adopted parents. The cops in Connecticut and the child welfare services in New York got involved. However, the story quickly turned into a dramatic court case and media fight. Alan, the famous director of Annie, in a 1992 interview with 60 Minutes, Hall in Manhattan, rejected all the charges. "I never abused my daughter. I looked straight into the camera, calm but strong." He said it was payback from Mia, who he said had used Dylan because she was mad about his relationship with Suni. His book cap doesn't offer anything. Later, he stuck to this position, putting the focus on the fact that investigations had proven his innocence. According to reports from Yale New Haven Hospital in 1993, Alan was right, there was no proof of abuse, and it looked like Dylan might have been taught. But Judge Elliot Wilk, another report in the custody conflict, was thrown out as unconvincing, and Dylan was given to the other parent, Mia, and not letting Alan get in touch with him. For years, Dylan lives in the shadow of she had bad memories and fought with depression, eating disorders, and being afraid of what other people would think of her. As the Me Too movement began in 2014, Dylan wrote an open letter in the New York Times, confirming her story. She described what happened and asked why Alan was still praised in Hollywood, even though she called him a stalker. Dylan cried during her first TV interview with CBS in 2018 as she talked about Alan as he denied everything. "He lied, and he has been lying for too long." Another in-depth look was given by the 2021 documentary Alan v. Farrow, which included Dylan's 1992. Several witnesses, including a nanny, said that Alan and Dylan had been lost for 15 to 20 minutes on that terrible day. There were different voices in the family. As Dylan's foster brother, Moses Farrow, Alan was on his side. In 2018, he sent a long letter saying that he hadn't seen anything strange on the day of the event and saying that Mia was abusing her children emotionally and even physically. Soon-Ye, who is now married to Alan, also spoke out in his defense, calling Mia Amy mother is unfair and sneaky. But Ronan Farrow, Dylan's brother and Ahe, was a well-known reporter who stood by his mother and sister and led probes into sexual abuse. In the #NoneTerm2 movement. This family story, like a tragedy, never ends, everyone agreed, but in the middle of the argument, Diane Keaton, an old friend and became a strong voice in support of Alan after starring in many of his works. "When I stirred up the issue again in 2018, Keaton tweeted, 'Woody Allen, he is my friend, and I still believe in him,' she said. She told people to watch Alan's 60 Minutes interview to make up their own minds. In 2023, in a talk, Keaton was proud of her time working with Alan and told Hollywood Reporter that he was the person who changed her. Keaton's argument caused a lot of debate on social media, with many people criticizing her for standing up for an attacker. It's clear that the friendship over more than 50 years, the relationship between Woody Allen and Diane Keaton, is a clear example of a rare soulmate link in the art world. Their love for each other lasted only a short time, but they stayed close spiritually. Loyalty that stood the test of time showed that love is not necessary. Love formed to be deep and last. From their first song together, Play It Again, Sam, to masterpieces like Annie Hall, Diane and Alan had great artistic times together. Where art and friendship came together. Diane Keaton was not only a work partner but also a very close friend. Many years of support for Alan. When shocking accusations were made against him, Diane did not think twice about speaking out in his defense, letting him know she trusted and would always be there for her friend. Supporting each other wasn't just words, it was proof of how close they were as friends and soulmates. A friendship that stood the test of time and social prejudice, making an impression on their personal lives and art jobs that will last for a long time. When Hollywood legend Diane Keaton finally passed away in October, everything fell apart. 11th, 2025, at her home in Los Angeles, California. She was 79 years old. In her last few months, asthma, a disease that made her body weak, made her health get worse quickly. A close friend told me that Diane lost a lot of weight and became weak. Diane looked clearly weaker, which made people around her worried. Fought a number of major health problems, such as 2 cases of skin cancer, and Diane had an eating problem for a long time. The years it took to heal her body and spirit were hard. More careful about every choice she makes about her daily life and habits. In the end, it was pneumonia that made her health start to get worse. The clear signs of her health getting worse made Diane face the truth that she was needed to get ready for big changes. In March 2025, she put up for sale the dream home she had built in Los Angeles and lived in. A lot of fans were worried about this sale because it was not only a business choice, but also a sign of Diane's awareness of her. Diane's health problem got worse over time, and in her last weeks, she needed care. From family and home workers. Every day was hard, from eating to moving around. When it came to her own things, she kept a positive attitude. But her loved ones were sad. She knew that her body was no longer strong enough to fight off sickness. Family and friends were very upset by how quickly she got weak. Diane was taken from her home to the hospital on the day she died. However, she soon after breathed her last, leaving a void in the hearts of her family and millions of friends around the world. Her death was a sign of a long battle with illness and trials that she had bravely gone through. The family later said they were very thankful for all the love and support from the public. The fact that they asked people to remember Diane by giving to charities shows how caring she was. Diane Keaton, who was born on January 5, 1946, has never stopped helping people. L.A. was one of the most famous movie stars in American history. It began in the late 1960s, and he quickly became famous for his parts in movies like The Godfather, 1972, Annie Hall in 1977, and The First Wives Club in 1996. Keaton got a lot of important awards, including an Oscar, for her subtle acting and unique personality. She won 2 Golden Globes and a BAFTA. In her personal life, Diane Keaton has been with a lot of great actors and actresses, like Woody Allen, Al Pacino, and Warren Beatty. Woody Allen and she met in 1971, when she was in the Play It Again, Sam, which was written by Allen. They worked together on 8 more books. She worked in movies and was close friends with Al Pacino her whole life. When they worked together in The Godfather and stopped when they finished The Godfather Part. Third, she had a short romance with Warren Beatty in the 1980s. Keaton had many relationships but never got married. She said that another choice to get married was her own, and she was happy with it. Keaton became a mother when she was in her late 40s. She adopted 2 kids. In 1996, a girl named Dexter, and in 2001, a son named Duke. Keaton always thought of being a mother as one of the most important things that had happened to her. And lived a free life, not tied down by marriage or relationships. Diane Keaton was known for more than just her famous parts. She was also a skilled realtor. She was a real estate owner and was thought to have $100 million in assets, mostly from investments in and fixing up old houses, especially ones in types like Spanish Colonial, Mission Revival, and mid-century modern. She sold many homes to famous people, like Madonna, who bought a $6.5 million home from her. Villa from Keaton in 2003. When it came to her heritage, Keaton was very careful. Legal experts say she probably got ready for how her estate would be split. Set up a trust to avoid court problems and make sure her assets were given out the way she wanted. Her 2 adopted children, Dexter and Duke, are likely to get an equal share of her estate, with agreement and not disagreements. This shows how well she planned and how much she loves her family. The Keaton family also asked people to give money to non-profits like food banks and animal shelters. Memorial homes in her honor, which shows how caring and compassionate she was for others. Diane Keaton will always be remembered by her friends and the classic the works of art she left behind. Her acts not only show great acting skills, but also play a strong woman who loves life. She has always had problems, but her impact will live on. Coming generations, both in movies and in real life, where she left a deep mark of freedom, kindness, and creativity. The funeral for Diane Keaton was a sad event where family, friends, and movie fans mourned an untouchable star. Woody Allen, her soulmate and longtime partner worked with for more than 50 years, shocked everyone when he stood over Diane's grave and read his heartfelt tributes choked up. A spiritual and friendship tie that not many could fully understand. The ceremony was filled with tears and happiness because of the pictures, memories, and honest feelings he shared. For a life lived fully for art. And you, when you heard about Diane Keaton, what most strikes you about her life and work is the mark she left. What do you think about Diane's death? She was a movie star. Leave your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe so that the station can keep showing you moving and inspiring videos. There are stories about important people in art and life.